Have you ever found yourself sitting quietly in your favorite chair, maybe with a cup of tea in hand, and thinking, how did the house get so quiet? You might look around and realize that while your home is peaceful, it can also feel a little too still at times. Living alone as we get older has its wonderful freedoms, doing things your way, setting your own pace, enjoying the little rituals of your day. But it also comes with its own set of challenges. Some you might expect, and others can creep in without you even noticing. The truth is, living alone in our later years is something many of us will experience. But just because you're on your own doesn't mean you have to feel lonely, unsafe, or stuck in habits that don't serve you. In fact, this chapter of life can be one of the most empowering if you know what to look out for and what to avoid. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So grab that cup of tea or coffee or water, whatever feels right, and let's have a heart-to-heart. Because sometimes just one small change can open the door to a safer, happier, and more fulfilling life. Let's start with something simple but surprisingly common. One of the biggest things to avoid when living alone is neglecting your daily routine. It might sound harmless at first. After all, when no one else is around, who's going to care if you skip a shower or stay in your pajamas until lunchtime? But the truth is, our routine anchors us. It gives structure to the day. When you stop waking up at a regular time, eating balanced meals, or doing those little things like making the bed or tidying up the kitchen, it slowly starts to affect more than just your schedule. It can wear down your motivation. You may feel less energetic, less sharp, even a bit more down than usual, and not always know why. So here's something you can do. Start your mornings with a ritual. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Maybe it's brushing your hair and looking in the mirror with a smile. Maybe it's stretching your arms out and taking 3 deep breaths before breakfast. Even those small habits help signal to your body and brain, this is a new day, I'm still in charge of it. Now let's talk about another quiet trap that sneaks in when you live alone: isolation. You might feel like you're just enjoying your space, and sometimes, yes, it's lovely to have the peace and quiet. But days can slip by, then a week, then a month, and you realize you haven't had a real conversation in a while. And that can weigh heavily on the heart. It's so important to make sure you don't drift too far into your own little bubble. Human connection, even in small doses, is like sunshine for the soul. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to be out socializing every day to feel connected. Maybe it's a weekly phone call with an old friend. Maybe it's joining a local group that meets once a week, even virtually. Or maybe it's saying hello to the same neighbor when you go out for your morning walk. And if reaching out feels hard, you're not alone in that. Many people find it difficult to make new social connections later in life. But here's the thing, other people feel the same way. They're just waiting for someone to say, "Hey, how have you been?" You can be that someone. It doesn't have to be a big leap. Just start with a little wave and a warm smile. You'd be amazed how that simple gesture can open doors. Another habit to be mindful of when living alone, and this one might catch you by surprise, is ignoring physical activity. When no one's around to nudge you to go for a walk or remind you to stretch, it's easy to slip into a more sedentary lifestyle. And while rest is important, our bodies truly thrive on movement. Especially as we get older, even a short walk or a few minutes of light stretching each day can do wonders. You don't need a gym membership or fancy equipment. Your living room, your hallway, your garden, these can be your exercise space. Marching in place while watching your favorite show, doing arm circles while listening to music, or standing up and sitting down from a chair a few times. These small things help keep your body strong, your balance steady, and your mind clear. And here's a little tip. Try tying your movement to something you already do. Stretch while waiting for your tea to brew. Do 5 leg lifts before bed. Make it simple and enjoyable. Your body will thank you, and so will your mood. We've talked about routines, social connection, and movement. All three are so connected. When you feel good in your body, you're more likely to reach out. When you connect with someone, it brightens your day. And when your day has a bit of structure, you feel more in control and less overwhelmed. These are not just habits, they're the building blocks of a life that feels full and meaningful, even when you're on your own. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly felt proud of how you spent your day? Not for anything big or dramatic, just for showing up, for getting up, moving, connecting, and taking care of you. That kind of pride is quiet, but powerful. And it starts with avoiding those small habits that slowly chip away at your confidence. Enjoy. So as we ease into the next part of this conversation, keep this in mind. You deserve to feel alive, safe, and fulfilled every single day. Living alone doesn't mean doing everything alone. And it certainly doesn't mean settling for less joy, less movement, or less connection. Let's keep going and explore what else we need to be mindful of, because the more we know, the better. We can shape our days into something beautiful. You know, as we get older, there's this strange balance. We start learning to walk. On one side, there's the beauty of having our own space, our own time, our own way of doing things. And on the other side, if we're not careful, that same independence can quietly turn into habits that don't really serve us anymore. It happens so gently that we hardly notice it at first. But the good news is we can notice. And when we do, we can make small, meaningful changes. Now that we've touched on routines, staying connected, and keeping your body moving, let's talk about another really important thing to avoid, and that's ignoring small safety risks in your home. When we live with other people, they tend to notice things. A loose rug, a flickering light bulb, that one step that's a little too steep. But when you're on your own, it's easy to overlook these little details. And unfortunately, it's often the smallest hazards that cause the biggest accidents. A pair of slippers with worn-out soles, a dim hallway light that makes it hard to see at night, a floor mat that slides just a little when you step on it. These things might not seem like a big deal until one day they are. Falls are one of the leading causes of injury among older adults, and many of them happen right at home. But the good news, most of them are preventable. Take a slow walk through your home and really look, not with the eyes of someone who's used to everything as it is, but with fresh eyes. Is there clutter in walkways? Are electrical cords crossing your path? Is the bathroom floor slippery after a shower? Making small changes like using non-slip mats, installing grab bars in the bathroom, and adding brighter lighting in dark areas can make a world of difference. Think of these as gentle acts of self-care, little ways you're telling your future self, I've got your back. And while we're on the topic of safety, we've got to talk about something else that's easy to overlook when you're on your own, skipping regular meals or relying on unhealthy convenience foods. It's one of those things you might brush off. You might think, it's just me, I don't feel like cooking for one, or I'll just have a sandwich again, or maybe I'll skip dinner tonight, I'm not that hungry. And before you know it, your body starts to feel a little more sluggish. You may feel tired for no reason, or forgetful, or your mood might dip. And it's not always easy to trace it back to something as simple as what you're eating. But nutrition is foundational. It's the fuel for your brain, your muscles, your immune system, everything. And especially as we get older, our bodies need a little extra care in this department. You don't need to become a gourmet chef. Just a few intentional steps, like having fresh fruits in a bowl where you can see them, preparing a batch of soup or stew that can last a few days, or even joining a community meal program, can bring so much benefit. There's also something emotionally nurturing about sitting down to a proper meal, even if you're alone. Light a candle, use your favorite plate, turn on soft music. It's a small ceremony of self-respect. You're saying, I matter, my meal matters. And that can be incredibly uplifting. Another thing to be cautious of when living alone is keeping things bottled up emotionally. It's so easy to fall into the habit of saying, "I'm fine," even when you're not. Maybe you feel a little low one day. Maybe you miss someone, or something feels off, or the silence in the room just feels too loud, and you think, well, I'll get over it. But those little feelings, when ignored over time, can become heavy. And that weight, when not shared, can make your world feel smaller than it really is. We're not meant to carry everything alone. Even if you don't have family nearby or close friends around, there are ways to let those feelings breathe. Write them down. Talk to a counselor or a support group, even online, or just find someone who will listen, truly listen. You'd be surprised how healing it is to simply speak your truth out loud to someone who cares, even if it's once a week, even if it's just for a few minutes. You've made it this far with me, and I just want to pause and say, you're doing something powerful by being here. It's not always easy to reflect on our habits or make changes, especially when we're used to doing things a certain way. But the fact that you're taking this time to care for yourself, to think deeply about how you live, it matters. It shows strength. It shows courage. Now let's continue, because there are a couple more things that are often overlooked when living alone, and these can have a big impact on your well-being if left unchecked. One of those things is avoiding regular checkups and health monitoring. Now I get it. When you feel fine, it's easy to think, why bother? And with no one around to nudge you to say, did you book that appointment yet? It's easy to push it off. A little ache here, a small issue there, and you think, I'll see how it feels next week. And then a month passes, and then maybe longer. But here's the thing. Many health issues start quietly. They creep in slowly. High blood pressure, early signs of diabetes, vision problems, even hearing loss. They don't always shout. Sometimes they whisper. And when you live alone, it's even more important to catch those whispers before they grow louder. Making your health a priority doesn't mean you're being overly cautious. It means you're being wise. It means you're respecting your body enough to stay ahead of the curve. Schedule those regular checkups, even if you feel well. Get your eyes checked, your blood pressure monitored, your medications reviewed. If something doesn't feel quite right, don't wait. Ask, investigate, and don't forget about dental health. It's easy to skip dentist visits as we age, but oral health is directly connected to heart health, digestion, and overall well-being. Taking care of your teeth and gums is taking care of the rest of you. Now, as we get closer to the end of our conversation, there's one more thing I'd like to gently bring up, and that's avoiding planning ahead for emergencies or future. It's something most of us don't want to think about. We say, I'll deal with it if and when it happens. But let me ask you, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you wished you'd planned ahead? Maybe it was something small, like running out of groceries during a storm, or something more serious, like a sudden health scare that caught you off guard. These moments remind us that life is unpredictable. Planning ahead doesn't mean you're expecting the worst. It simply means you're creating a safety net. It gives you peace of mind. It puts you in the driver's seat. Make sure you have a list of emergency contacts, neighbors, friends, your doctor, maybe even someone who can check in if you're ever unwell. Keep it in a visible spot. Write down any medications you take and post it on the fridge in case paramedics ever need it. Have a basic plan for what you do in case of a fall, a power outage, or a sudden illness. And while it's a hard conversation, think about your future care too. Would you prefer to stay at home with help? Would you want a say in where you go if you need assisted living? What are your wishes when it comes to your health, your finances, your independence? These aren't just practical decisions, they're personal ones. And making them now when you feel strong and clear is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself and for anyone who may support you down the road. So, we've talked about a lot together. We looked at the silent traps that can sneak in when you're living alone, falling into isolation, neglecting routines, skipping meals, letting small risks go unnoticed, ignoring emotional needs and avoiding health checks or future planning. But here's what I really want you to remember. Living alone doesn't mean being alone. It doesn't mean going through life on autopilot or missing out on joy. In fact, this chapter of your life can be one of the most empowered, most beautiful, most fulfilling seasons you've ever known. It's all about intention, small daily acts that say, I care about me, I want to thrive, I deserve to feel good. You have so much wisdom, so much life behind you, and still so much ahead. Your home can be a place of peace, your habits can be a source of strength, and your heart can stay open to joy, connection, and purpose. Don't ever think it's too late to make a change. Every day is a fresh start. Whether it's putting on a better pair of shoes, calling an old friend, switching out a slippery rug, or finally making that doctor's appointment, it all counts. It all adds up. So tell me, what's one small thing you'll do today to take care of yourself just a little more? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share your thoughts, your experiences, or even a habit you're ready to change. You never know who you might inspire by opening up. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want more honest, encouraging, and practical advice just like this, don't forget to subscribe. We're building a community here, one that supports, uplifts, and celebrates life after 60. And finally, let me just say, you are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not too old. You are valued. You are capable. And you are deeply worthy of a life that feels good, safe, healthy, and meaningful. Here's to living well, living wisely, and living with heart. No matter your age, you've got this. You know, the older we get, the more we realize how much the little things matter. The tiny choices we make each day, how we move, what we eat, who we talk to, how we treat ourselves. Those are the things that shape the quality of our life. And when you're living alone, those choices become even more powerful because no one else is there to nudge you, remind you, or keep you on track. You become your own greatest supporter, and honestly, that's a beautiful kind of strength. Now, before we wrap up our conversation, there's one more important thing I want to talk to you about. Something that often gets pushed aside but can deeply affect how we feel about ourselves and our life, and that is avoiding self-compassion and falling into negative self-talk. You'd be surprised how many older adults quietly beat themselves up with thoughts like, I should be stronger by now, or I'm just a burden, or it's too late for me to change anything. These quiet little sentences might sound harmless, but when repeated day after day, they chip away at your confidence, your joy, and your will to take care of yourself. Living alone gives us a lot of quiet, and sometimes that silence gets filled with the wrong kind of inner dialogue, doubt, regret, even guilt. But here's the truth. You deserve kindness from yourself just as much as you've offered it to others throughout your life. Think of how gently you'd speak to a dear friend who was going through a hard time. Would you criticize them? No. You'd remind them of their worth, their resilience. You'd lift them up. So why not give yourself that same grace? Start noticing the way you talk to yourself. If you catch a harsh thought, pause. Ask yourself, would I say this to someone I love? And if the answer is no, then rewrite the thought. Say something kind instead. I'm doing my best. I've come a long way. I deserve care and peace. It might feel awkward at first, but with time it becomes second nature. And trust me, it changes everything. Your energy improves, your choices become gentler, and you begin to live in a space of quiet confidence instead of quiet doubt. And remember, you're not meant to be perfect. You're meant to be human, full of ups and downs, victories and mistakes. There is no ideal way to grow older. There is only your way, your story, your pace, your experience. And that's something to be proud of. Let me remind you of something else too. When you choose to show yourself kindness, you're not just helping yourself, you're creating a ripple effect. Others around you, neighbors, friends, even the people who watch your comments or hear your words. Feel that energy. Your calm becomes their calm. Your strength becomes their strength. You are, even quietly, making a difference just by showing up with heart. So now that we've come to the end of our journey together in this video, let's take a breath and reflect. We've talked about 8 powerful things to avoid when living alone. Not to make you feel worried or overwhelmed, but to empower you, to help you see the blind spots and gently shift them into something healthier, stronger, and more joyful. You now know how important it is to keep your routines flexible but consistent, to reach out and stay connected with others, to make movement a daily part of your life, to keep your home safe and free from little hazards, to eat nourishing meals that support your health, to express your emotions instead of bottling them up, to stay on top of your health with regular checkups, to plan ahead for peace of mind, and perhaps most importantly, to speak to yourself with the same kindness you offer to others. That's not just a checklist, that's a blueprint for living well, on your own, but never truly alone. And if there's one thing I want you to walk away with today, it's this. You are still writing your story. You are not at the end of the road. Every day you wake up, there's opportunity, a new chapter, a fresh beginning. Whether you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or beyond, this life is still yours to shape. So take that walk, make that phone call, cook that healthy meal, light that candle at dinner, laugh at something silly, forgive yourself for something old, and speak to yourself with warmth. Your independence is a gift, but your well-being, that's a choice. A series of small, loving choices you make day by day, and you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to start.